A major security flaw at the southern border. Listen to this. According to an internal Border Patrol memo, this was obtained exclusively by NBC News, roughly 30% of the cameras in Border Patrol's main surveillance system are broken. That's right, 150 of 500 don't actually work. And that actually makes some sections of the U.S.-Mexico border totally invisible to agents. The nationwide issue is having a, quote, significant impact on their ability to spot people trying to cross illegally. Of course, we have NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley now with more on her reporting. She continues to have these exclusives for us and fabulous reporting on this. Julia, good morning. Thanks for being with us. So you spoke with border agents about this. First, I think I want to know, just you as somebody who is an expert on this, how surprising this was for you to learn a stat like this, and then what they actually told you about the state of these cameras and them hearing this number.
So I was really surprised. I started digging into this because the union, the Border Patrol union, posted on Facebook that they were worried some cameras were down. But I had no idea the scale of it until we obtained this memo and I was able to start talking to some of those agents on the ground. Basically, the reason these cameras are so important is because when we talk to the administration about what they do to stop immigrants, if they don't, or spot immigrants or illegal drugs coming across the border, if they can't put a person at every spot, they always turn to these cameras and they say, look, Trump's wall isn't nearly as important as surveillance. And so the fact that there would have been this major outage, this is 150 out of 500, that meant something. I wanted to know, are there areas of the border that simply are invisible? And they said, yes, there are some very remote areas where they don't have people. If the camera goes down, they can't see who's coming across. They blame a lot of this on a contractor, and we can get to that. One important thing, though, Savannah, is that there is new technology coming on to replace these. I said, is this like telling me the Motorola Razr went out, but we have all these iPhones to replace it? Who cares about the Razr phone that we used to use, you know, in the 2010 area? They're like, only if you're talking about the time around 2010, 2011. In other words, the new technology hasn't caught up. They have about 300 of the new cameras, but they still have more of these old cameras. It's their main system. And when they have about 30% of that down, that does cause a problem, they said.
So how long has this been going on? And now whose job is it to fix them? You mentioned a contractor, you mentioned new technology, of course, the Department of Homeland Security. Whose job is this?
I mean, this ultimately falls on Border Patrol because they use this to tell their leadership that something needs to be done. And they have been doing that. They've gone to Customs and Border Protection leadership. Customs and Border Protection then turns to the agency running the contract. If this boggles your mind with how the government works, it's actually the Federal Aviation Administration that is responsible for contracting the people to handle these cameras. Wow. So CBP turns to the FAA. FAA then has to go to their contractors to go out into the field and handle this. In fact, in that memo we obtained, CBP is thinking about trying to end their affiliation with FAA, try to get FAA to stop running these cameras so they can go directly to the contractors because they don't think they can handle the scale of what they need.
And how long has it been since these cameras have been broken, and how long do we think it could be until they are fixed?
Well, they say it's an issue that's been going on for months, and they have had some people on the ground. Just this month, we believe about 30 have been fixed, but they still need to get more people out to these areas. This is a big deal. I also do want to put to rest some conspiracy theories that CBP purposely turned these cameras off. That is not the case, but we should look at the fact that when they have these cameras off, we don't know what we don't know. There are more blind spots to how many immigrants might be crossing and drugs that could be getting across as well.
Yeah, especially when we've been hearing things like the numbers dropping. Well, it's a little hard to say for sure if there's whole sections that you cannot see. Of course, we also know how big of a deal this could be right in an election year. We actually have this new NBC News poll we've been talking about this morning. One of those questions in there was asking voters, what's your one big motivating issue? Here we go right here. Immigration, border security coming in at the second highest, they're 19%. How could information like this impact how people vote, to hear that whole sections of our border are unable to be surveilled?
You know, Savannah, we always want to put out the information, hold whoever is in power accountable, regardless of how that impacts elections. I do think voters should be able to look at this and say, look, whoever is in office is going to have to grapple with this. This technology was put in 2011. It's something the Trump administration dealt with. It happens to be aging under this administration. And yes, you should want a government that puts resources towards this quickly. And we hope that's